As soon as tech supports, AKA.
Oliver, we're going to grade you against Joe because Joe's
Oh.
done all of them. So we're going to see how you compare it to him.
Yeah. Hi, Peggy. Did you get your hair cut? Oh, no, it's just all. Are you good, Counselor Nagy?
I'll play it by ear.
Well, alrighty then. We're going to start with a movie tonight because we thought we'd change it up and do something fun. Yeah, right?
We could do a field trip, so.
Yeah, could do field trip. It's too cold.
Not your best option.
Mara forgot to hand in her paperwork. Her permission slip. Okay, Sam?
I'm sure Richard can do the voiceover again.
Yeah.
Lip sync to it.
Well, while we're waiting for that, how about we do some introductions in case people in the room don't know who we are? Counselor Nagy?
That is me. Mara Nagy, City Councillor, Ward 2. Happy to be here.
Maurice Brenner, Regional Councillor, Ward 1, and happy to have Ward 2 over in Ward 1.
Right. I'm Linda Cook, Regional Councillor, Ward 2. Happy that they allowed us over here across the border into Ward 1 because this is one of my favorite buildings. And we have a special guest this evening.
Good evening. My name is Richard Holborn. I'm the Director of Engineering Services for the City of Pickering.
And we also have with us a special guest.
I'm having trouble hearing you in the second row.
Really?
I didn't hear Rudy say.
We're going to make Richard talk louder. He's clearly not a politician because he's not used to amplifying his voice. That's okay. We'll make him get up then
Yeah.
or something. In the corner, we also have Sam, who's on our admin staff because she's fabulous and gave up her evening to be here. Any questions we can't get answered tonight, Sam and I will also be recording and make sure that we get answers. Ooh, something talked to me. I hate when Siri listens. Freaks me out. For those who've not been in the West Shore Community Center, we do have washrooms located at the back. So
And they're not outhouses.
not today, they're not. You can get up and move around. We're very informal, this crew. So if you need to go, just go. There's water in the kitchen out of the tap if you brought a cup. And that's it. Sam, how
One
are
other
you
thing,
doing?
hold it. And Oliver is here, and he will be
Filming.
filming
for us.
the entire session, and then it will go online to make sure that, you know, anyone who wasn't able to get here tonight at least has the opportunity to hear the discussion and see what you're hearing, and will still have the opportunity to have their input. It's not a statutory meeting tonight of council, it's a community ward 1 and 2 town hall. And
Only 3 of us.
and thanks to Oliver, we'll push it out there for anyone to make sure that they get an opportunity to understand what's going on and how taxpayers' dollars are being proposed to be spent in 2024 capital.
And for anybody who does watch this later on and has any questions that were not, because it will be past tense at that point, that were not asked tonight, feel free to email us and we're happy to answer anything, anytime.
And with all of our stalling tactics, how did we do, Sam? Are you ready to roll? Excellent. All right. If it's not loud enough, you can tell us and we'll turn up the video too.
Hi, I'm Richard Holborn, Director of Engineering
You're going to
Services.
have to talk
Each
loud.
year, during the budget process, the city prioritizes key investments in services, programs, and infrastructure to meet needs of our growing community. The current budget, also known as an operating budget, covers the day-to-day expenses required to deliver services to residents, ensuring Pickering remains a vibrant and thriving community. While the capital budget is used for long-term investments, like infrastructure and facilities that are paid off over time. This includes projects making improvements to our roads and bridges, sidewalks, vehicles and equipment, streetlights, playgrounds, and trails. In 2023, the city allocated $1.68 million for infrastructure investments, including roads and bridges. Take a look at these funds at work. This project, completed in 2023, was a multi-year reconstruction plan to make parking publicly accessible while retaining its significant natural features. The latest upgrades include accessible beach ramps, pathway lighting, a new accessible canoe kayak launch, a recreation fishing node, shade structure, plenty of seating, and new public washrooms. As well, the city enhanced the beach dune features and added new fish habitats along the shoreline to help protect local wildlife. These key revitalization efforts ensure that the park continues to be an enjoyable and accessible space for visitors to connect with nature and one another. The Breezy Drive Sunrise Avenue Storm Sewer Outfall Reconstruction project was completed this year to improve the quality of untreated stormwater that is currently being discharged into Frenchman's Bay. The original outfall was constructed in 1968 and was one of the sites identified in the city's 2009 Frenchman's Bay Stormwater Management Master Plan, requiring restoration and environmental enhancement measures. The project includes restoration of the eroded shoreline, creation of sediment forebay, replacement of the storm sewer outfall and a section of storm sewer pipe, and installation of 2 massive underground oil grid separators to remove sediment. Fairview Avenue was reconstructed as the road surface was very poor and had reached the end of its life cycle, and the drainage was also poor. This project included a new asphalt road, complete with concrete curb and gutter, the installation of the storm sewer system, and driveway and boulevard restorations. The storm sewer was an important enhancement, as previously the stormwater runoff collected on the existing road with no defined outlet. The city's engineering services department administers an annual asphalt resurfacing program to maintain a safe and reliable road network for Pickering. Staff review the estimated 350 centerline kilometers of paved road network and identify suitable road candidates for the resurfacing program. The program includes repairs to broken curbs and sidewalks if they exist within the project, and a new asphalt road surface. These improvements are essential for a smoother and safer transportation network for all users of the road. This year, 17 roads across the city have been included in the 2023 resurfacing program, making this the largest annual resurfacing program to date. The city completed the Esplanade Park Enhancement Project in 2023, which included a reflections garden, sensory plantings, accessible seating, a shade structure, and playable musical instruments, providing a tranquil space for people to practice self-care and reflection. The enhancement project also features a new public art piece, Reflections, created by artists Studio F-. The city is proud to provide this new dedicated tranquil space where visitors can take a moment to reflect and practice mindfulness and meditation. Budget decisions can have a profound impact on the daily lives of residents. To get engaged and learn more about the city's annual planning for a safe, accessible, and vibrant community, visit pickering.ca/budget.
Well, thank you, Richard. And without further ado, Richard.
Thank you. Sam, are you able to put the map up? So since we are dealing with Ward 1 and Ward 2 tonight, I'm going to indicate many of the projects that are being contemplated and requested through the budget process in 2024 that come from my department, which is engineering services. There are other projects from other departments as well that have capital needs, but these are the ones from engineering services. So in Ward 1, we will have 4 streets that are being resurfaced as part of our asphalt resurfacing program. We bundle them together in order to get the best economies of scale. Makes it a large project. This year our total budget is $4 million for the 12 streets that we are doing. In Ward 1, we have Foxwood Trail, we have Edmund Drive, Hillcrest Road, and Yeremy Street. So the construction will more than likely be between May and the end of November. And it's a project where the contractor will come in with all the streets that are in the tender. They will start with concrete curb replacement and sidewalk replacement. So anything that's deficient is marked by our staff, will be reconstructed by the contractor. And then they will get down to grinding out the asphalt, fixing up the base, which is granular, and then putting down the base asphalt, and then coming back later on and putting on the top asphalt. So it's about a 6-month process, and it's because they handle all 11 or 12 streets all at one time. Another project we have is the Aspen Road retaining wall, which is actually a fairly small project. It's on Aspen Road, obviously. I'm not sure if you can move the map over a bit. It'll be way up. Actually, you know what? Just leave it where it is. Probably won't be too hard. Yeah, too hard. So on Aspen Road, when that subdivision was being developed, there was a property that fronted out onto White's Road, and they were not part of this subdivision. So the subdivider had to build basically around that existing lot and maintain their existing grades. And because there was the grade change, a retaining wall had to be built on city property surrounding the back of that property. And that retaining wall, after about 20 years or so, maybe even longer, is degrading, and it is causing an impact on the sidewalk for a safe pedestrian passage. So we need to rebuild that retaining wall. It is not known if or when that owner will want to sell that land to a subdivider who can create lots that will then front onto Aspen Road. So that wall needs to be replaced. Project number 3 is intersection improvements at Rosebank Road and Shepherd. Right now there is a jog at that intersection, if you're familiar with it. If you're going north or south on Rosebank Road, there is a jog at Shepherd Avenue. We have been purchasing properties on the south side of Shepherd, on the west side of Rosebank Road, in order that we can try to eliminate that jog. We won't be able to eliminate it entirely, but we will be able to bring the 2 intersection legs close enough that it can be signalized. Right now it's an always stop, kind of at 2 locations, and it can be fairly challenging for those who are not familiar with that area. So this project is for the design and to determine the feasibility and the design only. It's not construction yet. Project number 5 is a pedestrian signalization at West Shore Boulevard and Hillcrest Road. What we'll be doing there is actually a pedestrian crossover, so there will be an opportunity for a pedestrian to come, press a button, the lights will flash, and it'll give them safe pedestrian crossing. Project number 8 is Dyson Road Storm Sewer Outfall Design. That's the bottom of Dyson Road, which is really the southwest corner of Pickering, if you will. And that project is determining the design for a storm sewer system and an outfall along Dyson Road, so that in the future, Dyson Road can be reconstructed and upgraded with a storm sewer system. Once that is done, and that construction is scheduled for, or in the forecast, sorry, for 2027. Once that work is done, it'll open up the opportunity to add a storm sewer and reconstruct Oakwood Drive, as well as the south end of Rougemont Drive. So it opens up a drainage system that'll have a storm sewer. And number 9 is Granite Court sidewalks. So we currently have a 1.5 meter sidewalk on the south side of Granite Court between Rosebank Road and White's Road. This is to upgrade it to a 1.8 meter asphalt multi-use path. So that will allow bicycles to be on there, strollers, it provides better accessibility. Although there are bike lanes on the road, not everyone is comfortable with their bike on the road, especially being in an industrial area where there's large truck traffic, a large amount of truck traffic. So putting this multi-use path on the south side of Granite Court will allow choice for cyclists to use the multi-use trail. Projects that are in blue on the right-hand side are what I call carryover projects. So they're not new in the 2024 budget. They are projects that were approved in a previous year, and we are looking at progressing them further in 2024. So we have another pedestrian signalization at Rosebank and Charnwood, Woodsmere, so that'll be similar to the one I mentioned earlier on West Shore. And we have an additional tennis and pickleball court, which is in Shady Brook Park, and that will be under the Amberley Tennis Club to work out when pickleball will be available and when tennis will be available, because it'll be a shared court. That tender has actually closed and it's come in under budget, so we're happy about that. We should be able to award it in time for spring construction. Usually our construction starts in May. And we have what's called BRT. These codes probably don't mean much to the residents, but BRT 3A and B is a section of the bus rapid transit project along Kingston Road that is being undertaken by the region of Durham. So as they will be putting in the center median bus lanes and basically urbanizing and reconstructing that road, the city of Pickering's contribution will be for the sidewalks, the multi-use paths, and a cycle track that'll be on the boulevard. So this is funding that's going to be in place for when the region of Durham closes that tender and starts construction. That'll be our contribution to the project. And in Dunmore Park, at the bottom end of White's Road, there's a small pathway that leads to one of the local streets that needs to be reconstructed. Sam, if you can go to Ward 2, please.
Hang on, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
You said signalization at Charnwood and Rosebank?
Yes, it's a pedestrian crossing.
Okay.
So it won't be a traffic signal, so it won't be a full traffic signal. It won't be an intersection pedestrian signal, which looks like a traffic signal, but is activated by pedestrians only. It'll be a pedestrian crossover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me, and I have a question.
Sure.
I live over in the Lakes Avenue area, so are we gonna get the same type of pedestrian crossover at West Shore and Hillcrest, where the pedestrian will press the button and it will activate the walk display?
Yes, it'll activate actually flashing yellow light on top of the symbol that shows a pedestrian walking across.
When do you think that will commence?
We work with the region of Durham on those projects. They do all our traffic signal operation, maintenance, and design and construction. And although this isn't a traffic signal, we've asked for their assistance to help us with the design and the tendering of this project. So we're hopeful for 2024.
So Richard, just clarify that, because, so that sounds like a crosswalk, right? It's just flashing lights for the crosswalk signals or whatever, right? Whereas if you go down to Oklahoma and Iron,
Yep.
they have a traffic type signaler. So
Yes.
that's different. That's not what's going to create the Hillcrest.
That's correct. So what's at Oklahoma and Iron is what's called an intersection pedestrian signal.
Okay.
So it's at an intersection of two crossing roads, but it's only a pedestrian signal for the lights in one direction. It does not deal with the other
So
lights.
the Rosebank and the East and the West Shore are more classic type crosswalks. You recognize the overhead symbols to cross.
That's correct. Yes.
Push the button and point your way across.
Yes, correct. Any other questions on Ward 1? Yes.
Just, I'm wondering, is there any rationale with the mention about the outfall into Frenchman's Bay at the end of Sunrise?
Yeah.
They worked on all this the past year. You said it was identified in 2009.
That's
a
correct.
project. That's like 13 years later that it finally goes into the construction phase.
Yes. So the Frenchman's Bay Stormwater Management Master Plan was a 25-year plan that showed projects in the near term and the longer term, if you will. And these projects were, I can't remember where this one was shown, but we have done several projects from that plan, including installing oil brick separators on projects in and around Frenchman's Bay, as well as the Amberley Creek erosion control project. That was a significant one that we have done. And there's a few others. I don't have them off the top of my head, but I wrote a report to council little over a year ago that indicated all of the projects that were completed from that master plan. We are looking to update that master plan within the next 2 years, so not this year, possibly 2025 or 2026. We will need the funds. It's time to update that plan to take a look at any success that we have achieved, any projects going forward, because as you mentioned, it's been about 15 years. A lot of things have changed, legislation and environment, that we might not be able to do some of the projects that were identified in that plan. And some of the projects that were identified in that plan did not have a lot of detail. So we are now at that point where I think we need to update that master plan.
Richard?
Yes.
The Granite Court pathway,
Yes.
is what we're going. Right now, it's an asphalt path, got in pretty bad shape on the south side. Comes up just shy of the railway bridge.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's only a very narrow, there's no real sidewalk on the south side of Granite Court of the bridge. The sidewalk on the other side. So what's going to happen with the new bike trail walking path? Is it going to end, you have to cross over Granite Court, use the sidewalk on the other side for the last 2 yards?
There will be work on the south side, but the east part of that project will be on the north side of Granite Court, from White's Road up and across over the bridge to, I believe it's Iron Still.
So that's concrete path, quite wide. That's going to probably stay as it is, isn't it? Or-
Yeah. Yes.
Richard, question on the number 12 that you have there. Is there any hope of extending a little bit further east from Marathon to Dixie so that we can arguably get rid of the most dangerous stretch of road that pedestrians have to transfer or walk on in Pickering?
Yeah, the section between Meriton and Dixie,
Yes.
the region of Durham actually had to do a separate environmental assessment for that because of the restriction of the CN crossing, the little tunnel that you go under. In order for them to do their plan for Durham, for bus rapid transit, they actually have to construct another tunnel through there. And that work is being deferred. They are planning to do all the work to the west of it and the east of it, and then they will come back and eventually do that work. So this project has been split into, I think, 6 different segments across the 7 kilometers of Kingston Road. And that section that you're referring to, because of its difficulty, its challenges, and its cost, is deferred at this time. It will eventually be done. But
And that is a regional road?
No,
as
no,
opposed
I
to a city
do
road.
realize it's regional, it's just that it's one of the most dangerous roads
Absolutely.
in
Yeah.
traverse. And as a teacher in the community, so many kids walk that.
Yeah.
It's the only way they can make their way to half the jobs they have from Dunbarton High School.
Yeah.
Is down to if they don't miss the bus, or they miss the bus quite frequently. That's a timing issue. But it's quite a concern. I mean, it's obviously, it's been that way before you showed on the scene as well. So it's not that it's a new issue.
Right.
Thank you.
We have some questions on Ward 2 now?
No, still on Ward 1.
Okay.
And there's
We'll get to
questions
Ward
after.
2, George, don't worry.
Okay.
We're going to show you Ward 2.
You mentioned the repaving of Hillcrest. Is that the very south section, south of Oklahoma, over to Hillview?
North.
Oh, yes, like
Ward 1.
Get us,
Crest Road from recollection, I believe that is the section from Oklahoma north.
To Hillview.
Yeah.
So will they wait until after there's a project right at the corner of Hillview and Hillcrest, 2 houses, one will be facing Hillcrest, so will they wait until after that's built before they dig up brand new pavement again?
Hopefully they don't have to dig up brand new pavement, but thanks for bringing that to my attention. We'll look to see whether there's any service connections that need to be installed and from the
Now
road.
they're subdividing the lot.
Yeah, so if there's service connections to be done, then it would be good to have that done first, for sure. Yes.
You mentioned that I guess, the conversion to pickleball courts. You think they'll probably start in May. When do you think they finish that? Because it's curious, at Dunsmore, they of course are replacing the service of the tennis courts. I'm not sure if that's real pickleball or just tennis courts. That's been going on an awful long time now, and it doesn't look enough. It looks like it becomes grade the ground, done nothing else. It's hard to believe that it's not finished yet.
Unfortunately, I can't answer that one. That's a project that's in the operations department, so I'm not sure what the schedule is for that. But that is just strictly a resurfacing of the existing courts, the one in Dunmore. Up at Shady Brook Park, it's a brand new.
They're not resurfacing, it's actually vanished, the original service is gone.
Yeah.
So maybe it didn't go well, and that's what happened.
Further?
Just one other thing, important one, I don't know if it's in your purview at all, but with the old, Maurice, the old Woodlands Elementary School, that playing facility there, the fields, the posts are falling down, literally rotting, making a safety issue for sure. But more importantly, and no one really wants to touch this, there's a court there that belongs to the city that is not being maintained in any way, shape, or form. The school board doesn't touch it, the city doesn't touch it. Sight lines that you can't see what's going on in behind it presents a risk at the school level, but being that it's a city property, the school board doesn't want to touch it. Are you familiar with the courts at the back of Dunbarton High School there?
In the back area, yes.
Yeah, and so if something, because there's a great place where pickleball could be, another top could be redone, and there's two full tennis courts that were there at one point that the community has moved in themselves and are with bags of asphalt and redoing things just so they can have a playing surface.
We'll get a look at it. Follow
Okay,
up.
if
That's
you
a
don't
great
mind.
idea. No,
Yeah.
thank you. I know
Because
exactly what
it's
you're
there,
talking
and-
about.
and-
We did pick ways to clean up there
Yeah.
last summer.
Yeah, but I don't know if you did that
Yep.
pickup, you had all those brush that's growing around that tennis court, and it truly does provide a sightline issue.
Yep.
And you don't know what's going on, you can't see what's going on. People are walking through it, it's a safety issue as well.
Yep.
We'll get
But more importantly, those playing posts, if someone hits them literally with their body,
could go down.
the tops are so wobbly because of rust, it could present anything to the city property.
We'll get in there and get an assessment of it, and if it's City of Pickering, then we'll come up with a strategy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great idea.
Yeah. We never get through a meeting anymore without mentions of pickleball. That's the fifth mention of pickleball tonight?
No, but if it's a need for the community, there's a court sitting there.
Absolutely, it's sitting there.
Utilized.
No, it makes perfect sense.
Pickleball, understand that
Six.
in Scarborough, they converted some tennis courts to pickleball.
They did.
And pickleball's noisy.
Yeah.
compared to tennis, because the ball is hard, has a hard reset.
So that would be
Sound.
part of the assessment in that area, because you do have the townhouses in front of it, but it's,
The townhouse,
back.
the school, and the classroom,
Yeah.
some of the townhouse didn't ever notice there.
Yeah.
You need to dig somewhere else, maybe more of an issue, so just wait and see what happens.
it's a good idea.
By highway too.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any further questions? Is that your hand up, or are you just relaxing? Just relaxing, okay, good.
I do have a question. I have a question on your long-term plan. And, so, before you get into that, are you the sole person that makes the decisions on these projects? Or are there other people who have input, like mayor, council, CEO?
Yes.
You want me to answer it, Richard?
Yeah. Go ahead, Maurice.
2024 is the Strong Mayor Power. So staff put forward the capital works budget, and I've also put forward a current budget, which is operating. Everything you've seen thus far tonight has been submitted into the capital budget, which, I guess, later this, I think on Thursday, this part of it isn't up for decision. This part was not taken out by the mayor, if I'm correct.
Correct.
So, under the Mayor's Strong Power Act, the mayor has the power to amend the budget and put the budget forward to council, not for their approval, but line by line item if we have amendments. So on the capital, what you have seen tonight by Richard, those have not been amended. So everything that Richard has put on that screen is in agreement with the mayor for the capital budget. So it's reasonable to believe at this point in time, unless some member of council moves an amendment that's carried and that the mayor agrees, it's reasonable to assume that every project you have seen that Richard has presented for 2024 will be in that budget and will likely be approved by the mayor who has the authority. It's not council.
So did the mayor pick some stuff first? Or did you guys pick the stuff first and present it to the mayor?
So we had a full process where the mayor and the CAO and the treasurer met independently with each of the respective wards, so regional councillor and city councillor by ward, and presented the lovely binder that Richard has brought a copy of the proposed budget allocations and a comparison to 2023 of what was previously allocated. And we can go over, after we're done Richard's presentation on Ward 2, the summary of budget sources, because I did bring a notable capital projects list for you. So they brought those forward to us, and debate ensued, and we were allowed to make comment and provide feedback. As well, staff from each department, as Maurice mentioned, brought forward their list of laundry items of capital projects or operations projects, renewal projects, new projects that have not previously made it onto the docket, and as well as revitalizing some of the previously shelved due to COVID delays, et cetera, projects. So there's been a number of meetings at City Hall to gather input for this budget.
So the timeline was, the departments all provided, individually, independently, they provided what they wanted to bring forward. And then the mayor and CAO presumably, and whoever else is working with him on putting together that budget, treasurer, put together what they wanted to see as a final budget. Then they brought that proposed budget to each ward individually, ward by ward, so pair by pair. And then this is how we've arrived at what we see right now. And then there will be a couple more meetings here and there where we can provide comments.
Was more of a concern is the fact that you talk about a long-term view of things and projects that are on sort of schedule that could change. You mentioned that it's going to be remaining on to that. I guess my concern is with all that activity that's going on in Keaton and North, how much of the stuff that we're going to get now is going to be later to them? I don't think you can answer that.
Well, actually, Seaton's excluded from this because Seaton is part of a development agreement that was pushed on the city of Pickering by the province of Ontario with the landowners. So the capital projects pertaining to Seaton, and I'm talking about the roads and engineering, are separate than what you see here. Am I correct, Richard?
Yes.
With the exception of the 3 Seaton parks,
There's
right?
nothing in the budget, in the capital budget that I've seen relates to Seaton.
There is. There are 3 Seaton projects in the capital budget proposal.
There's no roads, there's no sewers.
No, because as Marie said, that was
Those
part
were
of the
part of-
landowner and province
And
agreement.
that's provincial government when they did the land swap. Project-wise, I think as Councillor Cook has said, there are 2, and that's the 3. There's the Seaton Community Center.
No, just parks. The community center is a different capital operating budget that hasn't passed yet. There are 3 neighborhood parks planned for the Seaton development. For George, in his reference, pages 138, 150, and 154 of the proposed budget contain the outline of those neighborhood parks that are planned. And it's about a $5.4 million collective budget line item for those parks. The development of the Seaton future home of a recreation complex / library is one of the debated or currently available for public input discussion large projects. If you've been following the posts on Facebook or on the billboards that the city has put out, there are a number of projects that they're still soliciting for public input on. And that is one of the, because it's one of the biggest ticket items, right? With city center, what are the 5? I can pull them up.
There's Seaton Community Center and Library. There's the
Heritage.
Phase 1, City Center, which is the park across the road from the City Hall. And that's the one where the parking lot where Sears and them used to be.
And Petticoat Creek Conservation Park.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they
And the
are,
Heritage Center.
and Heritage Center.
East Shore, Franklin Shore.
And that is happening, that is our special council meeting that was
On
called this
Thursday.
week at 1:30 PM. You can watch it online. So the agenda items are Seaton Rec Complex and Library, Pickering City Center Project, Petticoat Creek Conservation Park Project, and Pickering Heritage Community Center. So you can still register as a delegate if
Of
you
course,
wish
the
to.
interesting thing is, there's only $22 million involved this year,
Correct,
right, in basic plan.
yeah.
It's the future years, the really the years to be concerned about. Some of it's, I don't know really how that works into things, because it's a huge $250 million project
Those are huge,
that
yes.
needs financing stuff.
And they can't all be done at the same time.
Pretty
It's
scary.
impossible.
Yeah, so there's various options, exactly the way they format it. You do this and do nothing else.
Yep.
Or do this and do this, but it's city center, we do this and more city center, it's all different things. It's
And
very-
this
very
is also how council was approached individually in our meetings of, if you can only have one, what do you want? If you can only have two, we cannot have all of it.
What goes for Ward
The
1 and
people
2?
of Seaton deserve it. They have nothing there. Their taxes are high. And the city screwed up, so the province took over. So that's why with the land swap and everything, so the people of Seaton don't even have a gas
Well,
station.
I understand.
So they deserve something. So
No, exactly, I'm not arguing with you. But of course, it's gonna be hard to sell to someone, because people in the South don't have the same mindset you and I have, perhaps. Why am I never gonna use that word first? I'm scared, I'll never go there.
Well, actually, some of the demographics, you'd be surprised, a new community center in Seaton with the new library can very well pick up some of the traffic flow from residents that live in North Amberley, live in Fox Hollow North, live up in,
Greenwood, Rome.
so it's, I think the assumption is that the only people that are gonna use a facility is Seaton, but that's not true.
Because it's not that far off, actually.
No, actually, it's closer to get to the Seaton Community Center proposed than it would be the city center.
White Boulder, just east of
Yes.
Can we go back to Ward 2?
Yes,
Yes,
Richard,
sir.
you wanna go back to work?
Let's go back to
Thank you.
Richard,
Good point.
and we'll get into some of this after.
Richard's leaving at 8 o'clock, it's now 20 to 8.
Richard, move into Ward 2.
Questions for Richard?
I just need an update on the Bills game that they win.
139 left, and it's 31-17.
Wow. Chris can go now. He's like, okay, good. The Bills are safe.
Okay, so if you can move over to Ward 2. Hopefully this microphone helps a little bit. Good. So in Ward 2, we also have 4 asphalt resurfacing projects. They total $1.32 million. And they are on Bushmill Street, Heathside Crescent, which is a continuation of did a section of Heathside either last year or the year before. Storrington Street, and again, that's just one section of the road. The next section of the road will be done, is forecasted for 2025. And we also have, where's my fourth one? Old Orchard Avenue, which is just west of Liverpool Road, a small section that needs to be done there. The next project is number 4, which is Begley Street Pond, so which is just over here. Begley Street, at the south end, there is a stormwater management facility that flows into Frenchman's Bay. But as part of our asset management plan for all 20 of the stormwater management ponds that the city owns, we are now at a point after 25 or 30 years where they require to be cleaned out. That's typically the lifespan of a stormwater detention pond. As the silt goes into it, it needs to be cleaned out eventually. So this is one of the projects that we'll be looking to do in 2024. We will more than likely get the design complete before the end of the year, but construction will be in the winter, possibly starting January 2025. We are looking to add new streetlights on Squires Beach Road. This is the section just north of Bailey Street, over to Colino, former Colino. Does not have that as an open road anymore, but it's being used as an access to the casino. And this street, Squires Beach Road, is used quite a bit by the patrons to the casino. And we have heard concerns that there's no street lighting on that road. So we are budgeting to put street lighting on that road. Number 6 goes with number 9. The biggest project is number 9, which is the Beachfront Park Master Plan implementation. So this is the section of Beachfront Park, which is east of Liverpool Road. As many of you know, if you've been down there, the boardwalk had been removed back in 2020 due to damages sustained from high water levels in 2017 and 2019, wave uprush, and a lot of the frequent storms. That boardwalk was built in the year 2000. and unfortunately it had to be removed, but we are looking to replace it because it's part of the waterfront trail. So that's a $10 million project. We've gone through an extensive community consultation through our Let's Talk Pickering page, and received a lot of input. We are doing the design currently now, hoping to have this project out for tender and to start construction in the fall. We don't want to interrupt the use of Beachfront Park during the summer, so we would start in September or October if all goes well. And the project includes an elevated boardwalk, slightly elevated above the beach level. Because it is a dynamic beach, we have to be cognizant of the fact that the sands do shift periodically, and that it's not stable to just place something on top of that sand. So it'll be piled down below, it'll be slightly elevated, and it'll be a separate pedestrian trail and a separate cycling trail. So this is our opportunity to separate the cyclists from the pedestrians to provide a safer venue. I have another presentation, hopefully we can get that on the screen and I'll show you a little more detail for that project. But back to number 6, which is a gravel parking lot. That will be constructed as part of this project, and it'll be on the west side of Sandy Beach Road, and it will be a staging and construction material area for the contractor, so that there's no access from Liverpool Road required, and the construction will be done from the east end. When the contractor is finished and is immobilizing and moving out, that gravel parking lot will be all shaped up, and it will be a permanent fixture. It'll be a gravel parking lot that is used seasonally. So it'll be closed down for the winter, but it'll be available for overflow parking for those who want to access Beachfront Park.
Is that near the cricket field?
It's south of the cricket field, yes. But it's on the same park. It's within Alex
Not
Robertson
near
Park.
the cricket field.
No, not at all. No. So we're working with OPG, who owns the land. We lease the land from Ontario Power Generation. Working with them, we have agreement in principle to put a gravel seasonal parking lot there. We just have to work out the details of the design. So that's number 6 and number 9 together. Number 8 is a Crosno Creek Stormwater Management Facility. Again, this is the feasibility and the design for a potential pond at the east end of Wharf Street. So the south end of Liverpool Road, there's a small street called Wharf Street, and over to the east of that is the Hydro Marsh. So there's an opportunity for a potential stormwater management facility to help clean water before it goes into the Crosno Creek. Projects in blue, again, are carryovers. We have about $7 million approved, $4.8 million approved for the Crosno Creek culvert replacements. These are 3 large culverts, one at Gordon Lane, one at Alyssum, and one at Reedpan, that need to be twinned in order for stormwater to be conveyed down to Frenchman's Bay. Currently, some of the properties in that area are in the floodplain, and they are prone to flooding. The property, not necessarily the buildings, but there are structures that are within that floodplain. Opening this up and allowing the water to flow more freely will help protect these properties, and it'll also be better for the creek itself. So that's a project where, let me see. Currently, we are relocating the utilities. So at these crossings, gas has already been relocated. Some of the Bell infrastructure has been relocated, and Rogers is designing their relocations currently. Sandy Beach Road, that's the project that's been going on forever. I hear about this every year. We've completed the environmental assessment. We have completed most of the design. We do not have our permit yet from TRCA, but we have a little bit of design to complete in order to apply for a permit from TRCA to reconstruct Sandy Beach Road from Bailey Street all the way down to the south end. So that's the $7.2 million that I mentioned earlier. It's actually for this project. It's approved in a budget. Currently what's happening is the Lexicon is designing and getting ready to relocate the hydro poles that are on the west side of the road because they are in the way of what's going to be a future multi-use path. This project will also include urbanizing the road, putting in a storm sewer, and placing a sidewalk on one side and a multi-use path on the other. What else is being?
We are waiting for Rogers to finalize their design for a temporary location for some of their plant. That has to be put in a temporary location before Electricon moves their poles over. And we are also awaiting land to be conveyed to us on the east side of Sandy Beach Road, where the culvert just south of Alyssum goes across the street. We need land on the east side because we are basically twinning that culvert and extending it, making it longer. And there's land that we require for that. The property owner is currently going through a site plan process, but it's been a lot slower than anticipated. We will be receiving that land if they get site plan approval, but if they decide not to continue with their site plan application, we'll have to look at other means of acquiring that land. And there are also some encroachments that we have to deal with on the west side of Sandy Beach Road for some of the properties that are on Loveland. Some of the fencing is actually within the road allowance of Sandy Beach Road, and there are also some other amenities that the residents have placed within the road allowance, which will have to be removed. So we have to come up with a plan for getting that done. So I'm not sure when this will go out to tender. There are still several loose ends to be tied up before we are tender ready, but the design is almost complete and we're almost to a point where we can get our TICA permit. Project 12 is another section of the BRT. That's a section from Dixie Road to Bainbridge. So that's the largest piece that's out of the east side of the project, going all the way pretty well to the limits of Pickering, except for the one section from Bainbridge to Notion Road. And as mentioned before, that includes street lighting, sidewalks, multi-use paths, and cycle paths on the boulevard. And the final project, which is a carryover, all the blue ones are, is the Liverpool Bridge replacement, and that's at the foot of Liverpool Road. There's a nice wooden bridge structure that's been there many years. It does have low limit restrictions to it, so it's time to look at it being replaced. It has a few years of life left, but we are going ahead with the design work to see what it'll be replaced with, what type and style of bridge it will be. And construction is in the forecast for 2027. Questions for Ward 2? Go ahead.
Hi, question for you about the boardwalk.
Yes.
So you said it's not going to start construction until the fall?
That's correct.
So when are we actually going to have access to there again?
Well, there is access to there, but it's just the Sandy Beach now.
And it's not very feasible for people, I mean,
For
even
bicycles,
walking
no.
through that sand is hard. So for
Correct.
runners, people with strollers, people with mobility devices, those are all issues.
No, you're correct. We're
So
doing,
if it starts at late 2024, how long is it going to be before there's a usable boardwalk?
that'll probably carry into sometime in 2025. I can't tell you how long that construction will take until we have a contractor on board and they provide us. But, you know, it would be, in my guesstimate, 6 to 8 months.
And what about the gravel parking lot you're talking about? Is that going to impact access to Alex Robertson? Like while this construction stuff goes on, so the stuff they were doing on Sandy Beach not long ago, they took away a lot access to a good part of the park. Is that going to happen again as this goes forward?
The access, excuse me,
To Alex Robertson?
the access at Alex Robertson, the existing parking lot will be open and will not be affected by this project. Down at the south end where there's the section of waterfront trail that leads to Sandy Beach Road, that will be impacted during construction because that will be the access for the contractor to do the work.
Down by OPG at the bottom.
It's the very bottom.
Along the top, along the river, of the highway property.
But right now, they closed off sections of the park while they were doing the other work?
That was a regional project, yeah, that was the Crosno.
That was the Liverpool Road Pumping Station Force Main Twinning project done by the region of Gill.
It's just somebody who uses the area.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Construction does cause a lot of inconveniences, temporary closures of infrastructure and amenities, unfortunately.
Okay, well, I'm sure people will be interested to know about the boardwalk, because I have a lot of neighbors who use it too.
Next question. Greg?
Thank you, Richard, for the excellent presentation and highlighting the projects in blue. Being an accountant, we had some rude shocks with respect to Walnut Lane with cost escalation. Those projects were approved in previous years, and looking at the mayor's capital budget, I don't see those projects identified. Is there a need as part of the mayor's capital budget to identify those and increase the costs to current estimates?
To answer your question directly, at this point in time, no, because we do not have current cost estimates. We're not that far along on the design in order to have a tender go out. Once the tender goes out, that will certainly inform the project. And there's two ways to take on that additional funding. That can be approved by council at the time of awarding the tender, or if the tender does not want to be awarded because of insufficient funds, then it'll be up to staff to recommend the additional funds in the future year's budget and to re-tender.
Okay, thank you. Good question, Craig. Yes, I was gonna ask that too. I live on Lister Wall, and it was great that the road was repaved. Thank you very much. I did get a new part of my driveway, new boulevard. The problem we had on Lister Wall was that they would come in, take out the curbs, fix the sidewalks. Next thing you know, Rogers was out, Bell was out. So we had a lot of outages with respect to Bell and Rogers. Residents weren't too happy. Okay? Concern is what lessons learned do we have with the contractor to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Really, my neighbor on Storrington, when I told him his street was being resurfaced next year, he was flabbergasted. Again, a lot of these things aren't really advertised well enough in advance. And maybe this is something that the councillors can look around and come up with. We all have information given to us. We all know that we have capital projects coming, but the communication down to the resident is very lacking. Unless you come to a town hall meeting, unless you're on Facebook, unless you're in the mayor's back pocket, a lot of these things don't occur. And I'm now really addressing the councillors. You have a budget for communications. Why aren't you using that budget to its fullest and communicating out to the residents?
We certainly can. I think there's a couple of avenues, and it's a great suggestion, George. Utilizing the format of the social tell, similar to how the city currently advertises, we can work with Richard's department to look at upcoming road resurfacing projects. Just as an example, it could be a park that's being redone or something. We have access in that along Highway 2 to the billboard that's on Highway 2 and the one on Liverpool. The city does not own those billboards. We take down space within them. We have an agreement for that. So we can certainly work with the communications team under Shauna.
There's the standing ones, like the one at Dixie and.
Yep, and those ones as well. But we would have to have those slotted in amongst the other communications with the city.
Something to look at for next year.
Yeah.
I go back over to get on the finance side. Like, I don't know why Storrington is being cut in half. To me, it's a bit of an upheaval for 2 years for the residents. Why can't it be done in 1 year? And if you have to prioritize, then maybe reprioritize.
So when we looked at that project in its entirety, it would be about $800,000. And that would be a significant portion of what I'm going to say, that ward's allocation, although we don't specifically allocate asphalt resurfacing to wards. We try to make it equal if we can, so that all wards get a similar amount of money. But we do look at the roads from a different lens, as opposed to splitting them out over the wards. But being $800,000, there would not be a lot of money left over for other streets. So like a East Side, or like Major Oaks or Delwood, those are Ward 3 projects. We split them over a couple of years.
So for example, and let's take it number 5, new lights on Squires Beach Road, and defer that for a year, because you said earlier, that relates to only really for the pedestrian, the casino people to go and gamble.
is that really a fair use of allocated dollars for the city of Pickering?
Well, the project isn't for people to go gambling, the project is to create a safer road for those in the evening.
The fact is, the casino gives the city how many million? 21 million, we split with the division, so we get like $10 million. So basically, is this casino paying for that themselves anyway? How do you all look at it?
19 million.
That's what it's
to make them smile.
Well, it also services the church and the daycare that are on that strip of road as well. So there is benefit, direct benefit to residents who are utilizing that as well. We've heard from a number of residents, including one sitting in front of you, that the city lacks a lot of lighting, in particular streetlights, aging infrastructure. Lighting systems have changed since a lot of the ward lighting was built in Ward 2. I'd like to see us come up to a level that's acceptable for safe spaces. In that particular area, there is safety concerns regarding the casino. So yeah, I am definitely on board with Richard in making that an improved stretch of road. If you can't see it, we don't know what's going on. And then you're drawing on reserves from police force to enforce. So you're taking from one budget to pay for another thing. So.
And whether or not it is, you know, people who are predominantly people using that road who are those going gambling, as Linda says, if an accident happens, if something terrible happens, it's still drawing on our
I was more concerned about the upheaval on Storrington for a 2-year project versus a 1-year project. That's all.
And that's fair. And it's the other point that if a gambler is somebody who's going to gamble, sure, but they're still people, and they're still going and having a night out and doing something that they enjoy and deserve to stay alive doing that.
People say, refer to the dark, they get strong on streets that actually have lighting, they refer to the dark and dark. There are other ways to get
I think the other
it's not the only path.
The other
It
piece
is
to
not.
factor in is that some of the projects, and I believe that probably the lighting one that you're referring to on Squires Beach would be partially funded from development charges that were paid for by the casino at the time of their application. And we can't transfer over development charges that are dedicated to a geographic area to another geographic area. So I hear what you're saying. So
and I'm agreeing with him, Maurice. The fact is we come up with, and I love the presentations, don't get me wrong, we're getting some information, but we don't get the whole information at the same time. If I give you a list of 25 projects and say, here are the 25 projects I'm going to work on at Pickering, which ones are the most important to you to work on, you really can't answer that because you say, well, this is going to be funded by the feds, this is going to be funded by DC, this is going to be funded by our property taxes.
Agreed.
We don't see that type of
No, you don't.
analysis to make a good determination.
That is
I think
point
the other
noted,
piece is,
yes.
Richard, your area also does the road needs assessments, which does the priorities. So by the time we get it, their needs assessment has already been assessed. So, and I think you're doing a review on the road need assessment, if I'm correct?
Yeah, the current road needs study was completed in 2016, so that gave us basically all our lane kilometers of roads that are in need of either resurfacing or actual reconstruction. We don't do a worst first when it comes to resurfacing. We try to pick roads that are in that 20 to 30 year time frame before they are basically disintegrated like a Sandy Beach road, so that it can be resurfaced and we can get another 25 years out of it. So we look at those. So that assessment was done in 2016, so yeah, 8 years ago. And we are looking through our current budget to upgrade, sorry, I keep saying upgrade, update that plan, because some roads deteriorate more than others over a year period, right?
So that-
Due to different
So if OPG gets its refurbishment agreement, the refurbishment units 5 to 8, the road they're going to be using for all their equipment's going to be going up rock, or will they be using some staging area on step up near Sandy Beach on the 1-4 side, which could have an adverse effect to this road?
Although I don't have that information, I would think that they would be using Brock Road and Montgomery Park Road.
And on the note, on the road needs assessment, that report does come to council once it's completed, if I recall.
That's correct.
So at that point, there'd be a public agenda, be part of our regular agenda, it would probably go through the executive committee. No, executive. It'd go to executive, and it would be in a public agenda. Public would have the ability to have comment and address his delegation. It'll get debated there, then it goes to the council after that. So that review that you're talking about, Richard, that is anticipated to come back to executive when, I can't remember.
I don't have a timeline on that.
But that's
It depends on
2024.
when we can get a request for proposal out and see what type of interest we receive back, and then how long it's gonna take that consultant to do that review.
So that, hopefully, George, will be able to have some transparent debate and discussion. And that's where I know a lot of different residents on different streets are going to want to raise their concerns, and we see where it takes us. So that's pre any discussion that the mayor has over the strong mayor power and budget, because that's the list that goes into the mayor's budget for his, that he looks at before we get it. So that debate will take place, and questions about phasing, why is it only half a road rather than a full road? That's where that can be discussed.
Yes.
The waterfront boardwalk that you mentioned, did I hear a figure of 8 million? And if it was, can you tell me the length of that, and is that the city estimate, or has it already been tendered out?
Yeah, the cost estimate for that project is $10.1 million. And that includes not only the boardwalk, but also some other elements along there. I have another presentation that shows some of the elements along that section. And I don't, off the top of my head, have the length of what that is.
Richard, do you have that presentation that we could transition to? Is that?
Yes, we could, because
Yeah.
we're actually finished with this one, so we can get that up.
Let's take a look at the,
Perfect segue.
right? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Richard, Craig asked you a good question about, updating the estimates and such things, 'cause I noticed in the document I viewed today was regarding the meeting, special meeting, council meeting happening in 18.
Mhm.
There was some comments there basically about how costs have escalated over the last couple of years. And as an example, it was actually cited right in that document itself, as I mentioned, at the Pickering Heritage Community Center, that when staff projected the cost, they predicted $42.5 million. Early last year, went out for tender, came back in July or whatever and stuff, and they got $56 million was their best estimate, was the low quote. They revised the scope a little bit, took a few items out and stuff, still at 51.9. So that's like 25%, almost 25% increase over the projected cost. So obviously that's really important. Craig asked the question, and I know it's beyond your scope of things, right? That's not what you do. But when you get down to the capital budget and stuff, and the leftovers in blue, it's going to be an issue at some point in time for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so with respect to the estimate on the boardwalk project, that was provided to us by our design consultant in September or October of 2023. So it's fairly current.
So a lot of that price inflation is behind us, so hopefully it's a good number.
That was the issue with the PHCC, was the inflation.
Yeah, so exactly. And of course, it would affect a lot of stuff. Blue was set up, I think, anyway.
And there's a correlation with that particular center that will affect other projects. So for instance, our current library, our Central Public Library, the storage facility there for our heritage archives and for archived materials are at risk. We need a proper storage facility
We just
maintained.
did that basement.
Yeah, yeah, it's in the basement.
Yeah,
It's, they made my parking space shorter to accommodate. Just kidding. But yes, this is where it's being stored, and at a particular point in time will be at critical density, and there is no more room, and there's not appropriate storage measures as well to preserve
It's a very- I mean,
heritage.
It's been in there, but it's a very small room, and
Of course, the idea was with museums and stuff like this.
Yep.
It's the storage, it's basically displaying information too, right?
Right.
Having a place to display it. So I understand why some of that's important, but obviously it's a bit of luxury item maybe compared to a lot of
It
other
is.
stuff that's on the list.
It is part luxury item, part necessity. At some point, we're going to have to face it, whether we like it or not.
what you were saying earlier about the procedure, right, about how budgets created and something. So right now, we've seen the capital budget, right, and then there's basically funding model there for everything in that's basically funded, right?
Yeah.
Goes to the document, everything, you see how it's being funded, and such things, right, through different reserve funds and stuff. So these reserve funds, I noticed that again, the document they put out, we're gonna be looking at on Thursday, there's some horror stories taking place there, where basically we're gonna severely deplete the reserve budgets permanently, I guess it's a combined, they're all sectional for parks and recreation, for infrastructure, they're all sectioned off. But we have like $75 million in reserve funds.
Which is why we have to
And over the
prioritize,
next 2 years, we'll complete that down to less than 20,000.
but it means that some projects will
Will
not
not
be
get done.
approved. Some of them are gonna be deferred.
How did that money get there in the first place? Like, I think some of it's development charges. We ever allocate property tax into reserve funds, or is it mostly development charges?
It's surplus goes into surplus from our budgets, go into their designated areas. But they're really the development charges that have been collected that are designated for the geographic areas. Or where growth is coming, I think, then a portion of that is then put into the reserve accounts. So there's the two account, we have a reserve account, which comes out of excess from our current operating budget. And that money goes back into reserve, which is used for rate stabilization to reduce the following year. You then have the unexpended projects, which goes back into, and it stays in their dedicated reserve account for those specific projects. In answer to, I don't know if your next question is, we have not seen the current operating budget. We will see it when the public sees it, and that's January the 30th. I have no idea what's in it.
So put things in scale for us, 'cause, you know, I looked, I can't really find it. Like last year, I think the total budget was $171 million, whatever it was, put in capital and operating. Is that right?
We only have right now the capital budget. We don't
No, that's right.
have,
I mean, for
Yeah, we don't.
2023, so this is just looking back. Was it $171 million?
Total?
Yeah, for both
Total
operating
budgets?
and the capital budget.
Yes.
82 million was the operating budget last year.
Was it okay?
But as Marie said, we have not been given
we'll see it when the
insight into
public, we don't
operations
see it
yet.
any sooner. So we'll see it by January the 30th, and then we have an opportunity to go through it line by line. And there's a process where we have, if we want to make an amendment, we have 10 days.
We only have 10
That's
days.
my question, is
Yeah.
with the strong mayor process, what are the opportunities for council, for public participation in the budget process? After Mayor Ash tables his strong mayor budget.
We have
10
10 days.
days.
We have just the same as the public.
You can raise as many amendments as you
Sorry,
want.
sir, can you answer my question, please?
So we've received a form, that we haven't received the budget yet, but we've received a form that once we get the budget, we can use to write down any kind of comments, amendments that we would like to see. And then we have until February 9th to submit that form, and it's January 30th to receive the budget.
Yes.
So yeah, about 10 days, 10 more or
And we
less.
need a mover, a seconder, and we have to consult with the relevant director. So we would go, let's say,
So
to
if we have a-
Richard's area, if it was his, and then we have to consult with the treasurer to get the wording in terms of each line.
The dictator wins the race here.
Yeah, 'cause the key element, of course, end of the day, the mayor needs one counselor to side with him.
Two.
Well,
Well,
I
no,
thought it was-
it's,
I thought it was 30.
you're exact, but you have to understand that the mayor does not have to accept any amendment. He can veto whatever, no matter what the majority.
So we're talking about a few different things here. So the mayor's budget is slightly different than
A planning item.
a planning item. So the mayor's budget is something that is up to and including unilaterally done by the mayor. He's using the treasurer and director's inputs and whatever. But that is something that the mayor provides to us. We look at it, we get to say what we want, and then he can go, yes, I'll take that, no, I won't take that. And that's how that gets done. In terms of the 2/3 majority that you're referring to, that's a separate point, and that's 2/3 for a planning item, I think specifically. There's a
Correct.
couple of other little elements. There's also mayoral directions and vetoes, which are similar to the way the budget gets done, so that's another separate thing. But that's, because I just wanted to make sure that we're not.
It's a strong citizen thing to get rid of the mayor.
Gotta talk to Queen's Park.
Well, okay, so what are we most concerned about? We're most concerned about the mayor's going to basically implement a lot of new programs or whatever, or a lot of extra additional costs? Like, what are we really concerned about with the strong mayor budget? What are our big concerns?
Can't answer, we haven't seen it.
Okay, but there's a lot of here.
Just one at a time, hang on.
Sorry. I think there seems a lot of chatter around basically kind of a little bit concerned. And what is the concern that you sense? Is it the fact that
Well,
our taxations and our rates go up?
Speaking only for myself, I'm concerned at the lack of a democratic process. Why was I elected if I have no voice? It's,
And just as a point of record, at the next council meeting, there is correspondence that's going on that agenda where we get a chance to again debate and hopefully endorse a position of another municipality in opposition to the strong mayor's power. But that doesn't mean anything because we don't control it, Queen's Park does.
Queen's Park controls that.
But to
That is, ultimately, it is in the hands of the conservative government, provincial conservative government. They're the ones that decided this, they're the ones that pushed this through, they're the ones that have the choice to remove this.
And also the mayor has the choice then to.
of course, he had the choice to take it
Every
or
mayor
not.
has the choice whether they want to implement or not.
Absolutely, but that choice was given to him by the province.
Say,
He does have the final say.
projects are really that important and the overall cost of each individual project. Is that right?
Correct.
But he's not done that, he's done that.
He has not done it in a vacuum, you are
He's
correct.
worked with staff. He has worked
And
with
us.
staff.
And us, to be fair.
And to be fair, he has said that he will be, he has sat down with all of us. We've had the opportunity in good faith to say what we wanted to say about what we've seen so far. And he has said numerous times that he will take council's opinion into consideration in council's,
He just doesn't want our
Comments.
input. He doesn't want the taxpayers' input. He doesn't want the public's input. And that is where,
I'm sorry, Janice, I'm sorry.
sorry, you're right. I'm off topic.
No, the operating budget right now, if you look at the operating budget down to a cost level, at least 70% of that operating budget is labor.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing.
So once you look at the labor, and Mayor Ash did say that he's gonna work to get it under 5% increase.
Yes.
Which to me, based on high inflation,
Wage increase, I agree.
He's actually committed to 3.9%, so.
This budget represents only 30 cents on our property tax, but we say nothing about the regional budget of
Oh, yes,
55%.
I am. Oh, don't you worry. I've got lots to say.
Oh, we'll come to that topic in a minute.
Rick, do you want to go back to,
We have a couple more questions in the back, but can we just finish with this major capital project, and then I'm sure
and then
we'll
we'll go
spur some
back to
more
the open
questions.
dialogue.
Yeah. Richard, do you want to show us what's coming on the waterfront?
Sure. So I have a little presentation here on the Pickering waterfront. You may or may not know that the entire waterfront across Pickering is Ward 1 and Ward 2. So next slide, please. And there it is. So all the green is either parkland or open space land. Next slide. Oh, unfortunately, we're not getting what's up in the top left corner. So
Oh,
this
wait.
is some projects, thank you, that were done previously. So this is basically an update of some projects that we've completed. Some of them you heard about in that video. So this is Frisco Road. This is the very east end of Pickering. This is a boundary road between Ajax and Pickering. We stopped it up short from where it was. It went to almost to the waterfront trail. So we stopped it up short, created space for 12 parking spots, and now it's a multi-use path down to the lake.
Richard, and that's where Linton House is.
Linton Houses.
For
yes.
anyone who's not familiar, Linton House is the heritage building that was moved there when Durham Region did the,
Phase 3 expansion of the water
Yeah.
pollution control.
And it is an accessible property with bathrooms as well through the walking trail that leads to a gazebo and an outlook. So if you haven't been down there, it's your new favorite secret
Yeah,
path.
it's not right on Frisco Road, it's actually on Montgomery Park Road. So this is the east end of that project. Montgomery Park Road is the west end of this project, and that's where the Lincoln House now is at. Next slide. Just shows some of the elements where we had a gravel road that went all the way down to the lake, and now we have a road that ends with these barriers, and it's a walking path down to the lake from now on.
slide. That's just one of the shade structures, one of the amenity features that was constructed. This entire project was paid for by York Region, believe it or not. It was one of the enhancement projects that council was able to negotiate when the expansion of the Duffins Creek Water Pollution Control Plant happened, going into phase 3. That's a plant that is 80% owned by York Region and 20% by Durham Region. So it was York who funded these projects. Next slide. Again, another rest area and a lookout area onto Lake Ontario. Next slide. These are trail keys. Actually, the next slide's probably better. No, we didn't put that in, so go back. Ooh, can you go backwards? All right. Okay, so these are trail keys. We now have them installed from this section, from Frisco to Montgomery Park Road. They're about yay tall, and they are four-sided, and they have a lot of information on them with respect to where you are. They indicate, you know, what trail you're on, whether you're on the Peak Trail or the Monarch Trail, and we're considering having these across the entire waterfront trail. Ah, there, right there. That's what we're looking for. Yes. Okay, next slide. Again, this was part of the boardwalk that was washed out. This was it's called a Trex material that was constructed in the year 2000. It held up for a good 17 years to 19 years until the high water levels of the wave uprush basically took it away. Next slide. This is Beachfront Park, again, where that boardwalk was removed. So this lady in the audience mentioned right now we only have sand, so it's not very accessible for bicycles. It's certainly not accessible for those with mobility issues. So it's certainly important that we get the boardwalk replaced here. Next slide. So this is a preferred design option. The beachfront park has two components. This is the section that's called the west, sorry, I wasn't talking into this, was it? The west beach area. So this is Millennium Square over here, and this goes out to the harbor entrance. And the elements that we're planning on putting across this stretch. So we have gathering nodes, we have seating nodes, we have accessible beach access mats, things like that. Next slide. This is the preferred design option for the eastern section, which is from Millennium Square over to Alex Robertson Park. This is the section that has the 6.6 meter wide elevated boardwalk or waterfront trail. It'll also have dedicated bike lanes and a dedicated pedestrian promenade, as well as pedestrian beach access ramps and mats. There are also lookout areas, not only out to Lake Ontario, but also to the Hydro Marsh to the north. Next slide. This is a concept of what the elevated boardwalk will look like. So you have access ramps down to the beach. You have bicycle lanes, bi-directional, which is on the left side, colored blue in this slide, and the pedestrian section is on the south side, which is the lake side, and it'll be a different color as well. And then we have a banding through the middle, to separate it, which will have furniture such as lighting and benches and waste receptacles. Next slide. So right now we are preparing the detailed design drawings. We have them into Toronto Conservation Authority to provide comments on, hoping to get our comments and approvals ready for tender so we can start construction in September. Next slide. This is part of the plan, but it's the second phase. So when I started out, I showed you what's West Beach. That is the second phase. That is not part of this $10.1 million program. This is also part of the second phase, which is a renovation of the existing washroom facility to expand it, to create universal washrooms, as well as more washroom space, and also space for staff and equipment storage. So this has not yet been approved by the TRCA, but they are reviewing it. Next slide. For the boardwalk, these are the type of materials that are being considered. They come in different colors, they come in different textures, And we're looking at a combination so that it's evident when you're on the boardwalk over time, which is the pedestrian area, which is the cycling area, just by different colors and textures. Next slide. This is a project that's currently under construction. It started in November, and it's the trail between Elvira Court and Bruce Hanscom Memorial Park. Actually, our contractor on this one is TRCA. They have a restoration section. They do very good work through natural habitat areas. So they are taking on this construction project. Next slide. So up in this corner is an idea of what the trail is going to look like from a curvilinear point of view. It's going to be fully accessible with respect to width and grades. Right now it isn't. There's like a 90-degree turn. There are grades that are about 12%, and it's extremely narrow. So this will be quite an improvement.
So getting back to that trailer, so it's going to be wider?
Yes, it'll be wider. Yeah.
Flat, won't be keep it in on Lincoln flat, will it?
It'll be flat.
Not, that won't be totally flat, right? But it's not going to be so severe as it is now.
Right. There's still a great difference between Elvira Court and Bruce Hanscom, but this will be such that I think all sections will be maximum 8%, which meets AODA conformity for accessibility. Yeah. Next stage, slide, sorry. And this is just where it ends up at the Bruce Hanscom Memorial Park. So again, construction is underway. We've asked the TRCA if they originally had a plan to finish it in July. We said, well, there's something called dragon boat racing that happens in June. If you could have it all opened up by then, that would be appreciated. So they're trying their best to have it available.
So Richard, the boardwalk aspect, we have the bicycle lanes and the walking area. When you go east towards the concrete path, this goes into one thing, right?
Yes, there'll be a transition. So at Liverpool Road east to basically where it curves up at OPG and Alex Robertson, it'll be the original 3-meter path. So it's just this one section. Next slide. Another project that was in the video was the Breezy Drive storm outfall reconstruction. Again, this was one of the projects that was identified in the Frenchman's Bay Stormwater Management Master Plan. Next slide. So there's the outfall there. Next slide. And then the Rotary Frenchman's Bay West Park. So if you take a look at the picture on the left, that was during construction, and picture on the right is after construction. So this is phase 1 that was done in 2018, and it's the section of Beach Point Promenade that goes from West Shore Boulevard to the brand new turning circle at the east end. Next slide. Some of the art elements and shade structures and seating areas that are within this project. Next slide. That's basically the length of it, again, along Beach Point Promenade to the turning circle and the parking lot. Next slide. And this is a section that was just recently completed in 2023, and that's the section east of there, so also known as the West Spit, and it's now open to the public. Next slide. This is some shoreline erosion that was done as part of the phase 2 project. So on the left, that's what the existing shoreline looked like, and you can see the difference in elevation between the land and the shore and how it was eroding. And this was a project also undertaken by TRCA, as they are experts in restoration. And this is the finished product that you see on the right-hand side. Next slide. And this is a comfort station that was built at the end of Beach Point Promenade, where the turning circle and parking lot is. And this facility has 3 universal accessible washrooms, and it was opened in June of 2023. This is one of the fishing nodes that is on the phase 2 construction that was completed in 2023. And just what the pathway looks like. Next slide. That's beach access. Next slide. And again, just the main pathway. Next slide.
Running to
extend the lighting all the way down to the gap?
I believe all the lighting that was in the project is
Now
is already installed.
Complete.
It's complete.
Stops at the arbor, roughly.
Off the top of my head, I don't recall whether it goes to go any further. I don't think so. But I'll look into that. Maybe we can make a note of that.
Yeah.
Gary, that's where it stops.
Yeah, that's where it stops. I thought maybe it should extend all the way down.
That would probably require another consultation with TRCA. You get into migratory bird paths, animals, wildlife. There's reasons, I'm sure. I'd have to look it up, but there were reasons for restrictions on lighting, how far it can extend. Light pollution.
So this is a picture of the accessible canoe and kayak launch. Again, no motorized boats anymore, just canoes and kayaks. Next slide. One of the shade structures and seating areas. Next slide. And this is the indigenous public art called Water is Medicine that was installed in 2023. That's the list. Yes.
So clearly, this is one of the capital projects we want to keep in the budget to finish our waterfront.
There's a lot of good work that we could work
Yes.
with.
We're going to go to the back because you've been waiting a long time since the last discussion.
I certainly appreciate all the money and projects that have gone into the waterfront, and of course, our association's been quite involved with Frenchman's Bay West Park plan. Considering what's gone on with the pollution that's going into Frenchman's Bay, all these upgrades, but yet the bay itself is not being addressed. Do you see that there's going to be a turnaround in water quality in the bay in the coming years?
So one project that the operations department undertook in 2023 was to have an assessment of the bay. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of information about what happened, but it was studied during 2023. I believe it was from staff from TRCA who did that to look at what the elements are that are in the bay that's causing the problems. What's causing all the weeds to grow? You know, what is coming down from the creeks that can be controlled if they can be controlled. So that work is underway. I'm not sure whether it's finished. And as mentioned, we need to update the whole Frenchman's Bay Stormwater Management Master Plan. There was in that plan some projects to be done at the end of or what we call the mouth of the creeks that flow into Frenchman's Bay. The approval for that, and I use the word approval loosely, from Ministry of Natural Resources was finish every project in your plan and then look at that as the last thing to be done. Because it's a provincially significant wetland, they really didn't want a lot of alteration to that part of the bay, the north end of the bay. It is the section that the city owns. We don't own the south end of the bay. But that is where the creeks come in. But the Ministry of Natural Resources at the time indicated that they would not support us doing any work there until a lot of the other projects had been completed. So we're on our way to complete as many projects as we can, but because it's been 15 years, it's time to update that. And I think more funds need to be committed to Frenchman's Bay and the health of Frenchman's Bay. That's just my opinion.
Craig, did you have a question?
Yes, and Richard, thank you for explaining to everyone here what's happened with the waterfront. There's just so much happening, and I look forward to everything that's happening on the east side now that we're almost on the west side. But there's quite a few people in the room here from the Fairport Beach Neighborhood Association, and I'll disclose my conflict because the waterfront currently is by my house. There was two residences at the corner of West Shore and library at the end of West Shore that were taken down. I was able to, after searching, find that there's money in the capital budget for design and a study of the shoreline stabilization was required in 2025 with the goal of constructing in 2026. There may be an issue controlling people from wandering through there this summer. Is there any way that can be accelerated? And so that it can be done quicker. And the second part of the question is, when they're looking at the shoreline stabilization, could they please look also at the area immediately at the west end of the bridge to Petticoat Creek? Because that is an area that needs to be protected. There's significant erosion taking place towards the bank. There's probably more going to fall off, and that is infrastructure that needs to be protected.
Okay, so thank you for that information. Yes, we did purchase two properties, one at West Shore and one at Marksbury, basically at the shoreline. Both of those buildings have been demolished and backfilled, and the area has been surrounded with metal fence to hopefully keep the pedestrians out, although that'll have to be looked at on a regular basis because it's not ready yet to be traveled. We do have money proposed in the budget to do some of the shoreline hazard assessment work you spoke of, as well as potentially start design for that project. And when monies are available, we'll be building that section of waterfront trail between Marksbury and West Shore. Maybe we're done. I bored them all asleep.
No, not boring at all.
I'll ask something. Elvira Court and the entrance to that has a narrow are they still going to keep that? The two grading sort of pieces that, I have a bike trailer, I can't get through there. So
Oh, you mean the path entrance markers?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, this is the entrance at Elvira?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we are restricted with respect to land. We only own a certain amount of land through there. So the design is to build it as wide as possible. I can't remember what that width is. Might be.
But they're keeping the gates.
Oh, the P gates. Yes, the P gates will be maintained there. Yes, it's to stop larger vehicles from getting through there. ATVs, snowmobile, you name it.
I think it's point there, so they're much closer together than they are, say, on the waterfront trail at the Petticoat Creek crossovers, for example, or the end of Marksburg. Much more room. There it's very, very narrow.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. Thank you.
That's not like a rule, a provincial rule, a roads rule or anything, they need that there.
No, that's just, City of Pickering tends to do that at the entrance to all our walkways.
Yeah, so the other side is nothing, right?
That's correct,
Find the
yeah.
difference.
This is done that way because it accesses a road.
There's a road on the other side, of Elvira side. No, I know where it's. But still, I mean, a lot of places don't do it, City Toronto doesn't do it. To grow your community, they don't do it. Why would we?
Thank you, Richard. And the Bills won too. It's a good night. Of course, we're going to open it up to Q&A, but before we do that, would you like to hear a little bit of the proposed capital projects that are on the list, aside from what Richard has said? We'll give you a couple of highlights, which I'm sure will spark some debate. So amongst the things, the notable capital projects that Richard has also brought forward, there is a planned, these are all planned, these are all hypothetical at the moment until we see the budget. Tennis court flooring replacement, there's a life cycle issue within our recreation complex that needs to be looked at, which is a $2.2 million replacement project. Seton Rec Complex, as we noted, is one of the 4 key topics that will be coming up for debate on our June 18th special meeting as well. That includes the community center, a regional library design, and community spaces. We did note the Squires Beach new lighting, asphalt reconstruction, the beachfront park master plan, the Seton Park, as I mentioned earlier, 3 new neighborhood parks for the development in Seton, a plan for Claremont to get a new neighborhood park to coincide with the Geranium Claremont housing development that's going in. We can't forget about our neighbors to the north. They haven't had a new park there in a mighty long time. Valley Plentiful Garden expansion. If you're not familiar with where Valley Plentiful is, it's on Highway 2 where the hydro towers are. It's the lovely community garden section that you see as you drive past.
Across from the old Nob Hill Farms.
Correct, across from Old Nob Hill Farms. They're 108 gardeners that utilize that particular space. So there's some plans to do some proper parking construction within that area and allocate some room for some additional garden beds to go in for more community members to rent a garden space for those who don't have garden. Pardon me?
Is there water available in that location?
There is water only by water reclamation and one hose, isn't there? There's only the one. Yeah, only one, but you know, gotta start somewhere. Greenwood Park Master Plan. There is a plan in, I believe it's the maintenance end area at the end. If you're familiar with Greenwood Park where you go in, I know a lot of people think Greenwood belongs to Ajax, but there's actually a particular component of it that borders on Pickering, and there's a master plan design for Greenwood Park as well to be looked at. Glenanna Park is also a design project at 1.5 million. Altona Road, you mentioned that already, some sidewalks and reconstruction, and something near and dear to Mara and I, and Nigel perhaps in the back of the room, is looking at Fire Hall number 2 renovation. That is an OG fire hall here in Pickering, and that needs to be redone, updated. Bailey, 1555 Bailey, across from the Legion.
Used to be the head office.
And training center, and now that that's moved to Zents, to our brand new fire hall, now is the opportunity to look at upgrading that particular facility to make it modern.
But when you said the 1.5 for Glenanna Park,
Hmm.
I know I've seen on the website the survey results.
Yeah.
Very vague survey results. Were all the 5 items listed as priorities, were they majority agreed upon, or were this the top 5?
We're not given that detail at present, George, until we get given our line-by-line item budget on the 30th.
We're going to be.
We are going to
We
be.
are asking for those details.
You asked us
Yep.
for surveys, we give our survey results, we never get back the surveys what they said, except for the high level.
That's a good point. They could publish survey results on Let's Talk Pickering. I don't see why that couldn't be done. Or even an aggregate of data. I'm sure there's certain privacy things that are collected, but other than that, survey results should be survey results.
When you receive the operating budget, will that be made available to the public in May?
Yep,
That's
same day
in that-
you get it, we get it.
That's in that 10-day period that we have. Just quickly before we go to questions, just for future planning, because someone asked about how we look at projections into the future. A couple of things from 2025 to 27 that should be on the event horizon that are of note is Don Beer Arena. Rink number 1 requires a retrofit. That is a life cycle replacement as well for Don Beer Arena. Greenwood Community Center, Recreation Complex, there's a whole bunch of maintenance to buildings that needs to be looked at just by sheer age. So an example of that would be at the rec complex, there's something called a curtain wall and windows. So as you enter the facility, we all know that there's a beautiful, lovely entrance to the window. Windows all have life cycles just like on a home, so that's part of it. Along with that is also pool renovations. That particular pool is beyond its age. We do a lot of swim meets. We just had one last week on the weekend. And the liner and everything to that needs to be replaced. It's not modern, it's not current. Yes, ma'am. The pool. Not Dumbarton or Rock Complex, Chestnut Hill Development. CH, you know,
Well, no,
It's
they
life
call it
cycle.
a liner, but they're tiled.
the tiled, yeah.
Oh, okay, when you said the line.
It's not a vinyl liner like that back here.
Not like a backyard pool.
See, whatever it is that is lining the pool, which in this case is the tile.
They close it every September for 2 weeks. What do they do? I just sort of.
So, too bad Chris wasn't here right now. He could tell you he does that. So a lot of that is the maintenance of the cleaning of the pumps, bacteria, build out, flushing lines.
The stuff to keep it maintainable, the stuff to keep it usable at the level that it's at right now.
Yeah, because it's a high-use pool. Delaney is also scheduled to get a roof replacement. O'Brien Arena at the back of the rec complex. There's a major design renovation project, in theory, again. As we add population and as sport grows, there is a growing demand for hockey arenas, which also facilitate learn to skate lessons, public skating lessons, etc. We know this year from our shift to being unable to provide outdoor rinks and opening up the arenas for public free access right now. That demand will continue to grow, so there's a renovation project on the docket. Council chambers is also scheduled to be renovated for a number of reasons. One of the primary reasons is the way that the structure was built in the round, while great in concept when it was built, not practical in terms of design facility today, causes a number of problems, which is why the dome has been replaced as well and cleaned up. Other areas that need to be addressed are public accessibility. If you've ever tried to get to one of the podiums to speak, it's not a great design. While there is a wheelchair gallery, it's highly inaccessible. There are a number of security issues within that space as well. So they're looking at modernizing and bringing that particular chamber up to snuff.
I mean, even that same point that you made, sorry to interrupt, when you, to access the accessible part of the council chamber, you have to come in almost behind where council is to be able to actually use that. And it's very, part of universal design and elements of accessibility being interwoven in any and all design of a space is that usability for everybody. And the way it's designed right now is it very much highlights that, oh, this is where you go if you need that accessible space.
Yeah.
So
it's
And again,
segregated.
to also reinforce,
Segregated.
these
Thank you,
are
that's the word I was looking
only,
for.
these are forecasts,
Yeah,
Yeah.
meaning these are not approvals that are approved today.
in
So
stone, right.
that forecast could change from 2026, it could change to 2028,
Yep.
it can
Yeah.
change.
So both from a human rights perspective and from a safety perspective, the
So these are
design
just
of the chamber
in the
is great.
capital forecast, meaning they're not approved.
Not approved. Plan.
And that is in the 2024 capital budget.
There
Part
will,
of Part of the
Part of it-
2024 is to have capital forecasted go, I think we're 7 years now.
we are 7 years. It
We're doing
has to
7-year
be.
forecast.
We're required to forecast that far in the future.
I don't think we're 3 years ago.
You will only see 3 years, correct, 24 to 27. So this is only within the event horizon of 24 to 27. Just a couple more. A Northern Operations Satellite Facility. So here's one of the cool things about this. It might sound like, why do you need to build a $10 million facility in Northern Pickering? Expansions and the cost currently of, so we have our sand up there. There's a snowfall. Our operations department is down by OPG. They drive all the way up there to fill their trucks to drive all the way back.
And they've got these massive,
Plus the
We're gonna beam it
grader.
in. My transporter
they've got
is
these
broken.
massive vehicles that they're trying to get up from there. It takes, because they're these massive vehicles that are loaded with salt and sand, they have to drive slower than cars. They're taking up that
Well,
space on the road.
It's less
And
about
it's-
that, more about the time to the driver. The driver can only
Well-
operate 8 hours on a shift
And that's,
by
yes.
MTO regulations. So if they're wasting 2 hours of their 8-hour shift,
We're moving the depot.
we're gonna have 2,
We're not moving, we're doing a
Northern
satellite.
and
So
southern.
that there's a depot down here and there'd be one up there. So for example, the graders are only used up in the north. The grade alls are used up in the north.
But it
So
takes them
a
over
lot of that
half an hour to
equipment
get
will
there.
go up
Yeah.
to a new satellite facility.
So why would we be storing them down here? It's just not logical as Pickering grows and expands to the north. Couple more, because we haven't said pickleball enough times tonight. Construction of 8 pickleball courts. This is all, again, hypothetical, location TBD, that we got a great idea for another one. So that's a sort of a 2025 idea. You did mention this, Richard, but the Highway 401 road crossing designed for bridge at Notion Road and Squires Beach, that's been kicking around for years.
The idea of that is.
These are-
Maybe you get the other side where you're not.
Yeah, well,
You know,
that is
no-
all TBD.
So it would be part of the long range
Mhm.
Long-range forecasting, correct.
aspect, most of the
Yep.
actual costs
Yep.
for construction then?
Yep. Just 2 more. Fire hall number 5 replacement, construction to replace the existing fire hall number 5. Again, aging infrastructure. So these may not be, sexy projects, but some of them are necessary and are unavoidable. I mean, we have to maintain our fire halls. We have to build appropriately sized facilities, and as the city grows and expands, you have to put these in. And then the last is also a community park design and construction is noted in Seaton as well. So there needs to be a master plan.
But one of the things I would like to say is make the budget readable. Pickering has not changed the format of its budget in over 35 years. Other communities have made the budget so that an ordinary person can go and look at it. It's like a dollars and cents budget.
Yeah.
Pickering's is like, this is over here, that, they haven't changed, I've said this almost every year that I've stood there. Make it readable.
Yep.
And make it accessible, make it user-friendly. It is not a user-friendly budget. It never has been. Been doing this for how many years, Maurice? A long time. And it's never been a user-friendly budget. And to you, George, it's not about the 3.5% or whatever it's going to come in at. I don't really care if it came in at zero. It's the fact that he took democracy away from us and took it and became a dictator. That's the point in all of this, is that he felt, I'm not finished. It's the fact that he used strong mayor powers and his own councillors have to go in writing and say, please, sir, let me show you what I'm going to have. That's bullshit. That he said in the election campaign that the only way he would use strong mayor powers is if he thought he wasn't a strong enough mayor, and then he would use them. So obviously he doesn't think he's a strong enough
We
mayor.
have not seen him using yet. You're just.
No, he's already used them.
Oh.
He's used them. Yes, he
He's
has.
following the procedure.
No, he's not. He's using, no, he is using strong mayor powers. You are wrong, sir. He is using strong mayor
We
powers.
didn't like, how did he get the Beaver after? We got elected democratically?
Yes, we
Okay,
did,
that's
but
very good.
no, you are wrong. He is using strong mayor powers. Ask the councillors.
So,
He is using strong
This,
mayor
this
powers.
is a utilization of strong mayor powers, the way the budget
Directives have
process
been
is going
issued.
on.
Thank you.
8 directives have now,
No, procedure, all the procedures, the mayor issues the procedures, the directives, it sets the procedure.
and
And
there's
it's strong-
8
strong
of
mayor
those
power.
current right now.
How many now?
8.
8 directives have been issued for the city of Pickering.
So Linda, going back to what Janice said about budget document is, or as I call it, where's Waldo?
Yeah.
Okay? Because that is there. But I would suggest maybe it's form a little committee, a budget committee, and you probably get a couple guys that are in this group
Yeah.
that could put together something that's a bit more presentable. Because every time you mention this to Stan,
Yep.
he gets very upset.
So 2 things, there used to be a budget committee that no longer exists because of this process, the way the budget is now.
It's a secret budget.
2, one of the things that I find lacking in what we've seen in the budget is an attention to address our website and the way we communicate. So to your point, Janice, make an easily readable document. We use archaic PDFs that are not even at a 2018 level of usability in terms of functionality. So there is nothing in the budget to indicate we're going to replace, update, and make that the front gate of the city, in my opinion. Where do people go? Go to the web. Pay your ticket, go to the web. Get a mayor's license, go to the website. Everything, get a dog license. We drive everything to the website, yet we refuse to make a modern, current,
It's so difficult.
searchable. So if I get to go back and say to the mayor, can I have 20,000 to zhuzh up the
So when you
website?
get the budget document, ask for it in Excel and send me a copy.
Yeah. No, we won't even it's beyond
I spent the
that.
last 40 hours punching numbers into an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
By section, by resource type, with last 5 years' information.
Yep.
My wife's saying, what the hell are you doing? You're retired. Get a hobby. I said, my hobby's looking at municipal finances.
Secretly, she probably appreciates that you have a hobby.
We'll have it all for you.
Yeah. So that is an issue that we need to address as well. It needs to be in digestible nuggets. Even the region's website is easier to search and manipulate.
Look at Ajax's budget. I mean, theirs is just like, hi, this is Ajax's budget. Like, come on in, let's show you around the budget.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing with this, and this is what we're doing with this.
We could certainly take a page from that as feedback.
Yeah, I said that last
Yep.
year too. I've been saying
It's
that.
not even
for-
just plain language, it's the ability to search and jump through the document. Yeah, I like that idea. Checks.
It's because things are hidden that people don't want us to know. And no, sir, he's used the strong mayor powers. You can argue me to the blue in the face, but he's used the strong mayor powers on the budget. And you can just, he's done it. He has done it. He's taken democracy out of our hands, and he is the boss. Because he doesn't think he's strong enough as a mayor. That's exactly what he said. I I was there because I debated against it. Exactly what he
Mayor
said.
having strong mayor powers. Does it take a very strong committee of members to get together and say to the mayor, no, you can't have.
No,
licenses over
Brian,
one-"
it's not, can't do it.
Can't do it.
We received our first directive, it kicked in July the 1st, and our directive came July the 2nd. And once the directive was issued, it's issued. And
There is a
so, in answer to your question, we could form 1,000,000 committees. I could form a committee in this room. I could form a task force, but that it has no power.
There is a page on our website that was added that you can actually go and see the strong mayor directives, as they're known as, and they get updated and added as he adds new powers, new decisions, directions. Take a look
There's
at
one
it.
mayor in the region that declined, and that's
Mayor
Councilor
Roy.
Roy. And so she put out information that she has declined.
Yes, but she also told one of her constituents that it's none of her business what they do with their money.
Well, I don't agree with that.
Right, she did that, so
Craig?
I think it was Maurice mentioned earlier that there was a process where you people have till February the 9th to give up your amendments.
Correct.
This whole thing's not following the stated council procedures. Obviously, some new procedures have been put in place.
Yes.
Would it be possible for you to publicize the procedures? Because obviously, we need to make sure you know.
Actually, Craig, they actually
They are.
They went out
Yeah.
by the clerk. We put it out. We're using social media as best we can to put information out. But those new procedures, we just got the directive again today, I think. And then I queried the number of the days to ask, because we don't have many days to do it.
So
Okay, I wasn't
the,
on social media today. I did receive an email though saying that there was a meeting to discuss the budget if necessary on February the 20th between 1 and 3 o'clock.
Something like that, yeah.
And we've been given a certain date prior to that. Remember, the agenda goes out the week earlier. So we've got a certain date prior to
February
that.
9th is the date that we have to hand in that form
Meaning
that I was
we
telling you
have
about
from the
earlier.
30th to the 9th. That's it.
When's the budget
Which
finalized?
if you look at the dates, that's
When's it
1 weekend.
finalized?
When's the budget finalized?
It's finalized by the mayor, not by us.
No, when?
No,
That's on
when?
February
When?
9th?
No.
Well, so the budget, it may, to be honest, it may be finalized in his Microsoft Word files, but we will receive it on January 30th.
So when do the departments get the direction from the budget?
They've already been given them by the mayor. So what you're
So the budget's
seeing,
already created.
what you're gonna see and what we're gonna see are the directives that have been given by the mayor into that budget. So that budget that's
So that will
coming
go out on
forward
January 30th.
has already been directed to staff.
Okay.
So,
Any new hires or any body count that
Well,
increases?
for example, in the 2024 budget, a directive just came out, and it was for the affordability
Office of
position,
Affordability.
Office of Affordability, and that was in 2023. A directive came out to change it from a full-time position
Permanent
to a
full-time.
permanent full-time to a temporary one-year position. So that was a directive from the mayor to override whatever was in the budget submission by staff. So
And that.
the
that
directives,
position
by
was
the
a-
time that budget comes out, the directives by the mayor have already been issued, and it would already be in the ones that we've seen.
it's, so it's,
I'm not
he's,
saying it's a bad thing or a good thing, I'm just saying
These are the
that
facts.
these
It's
are the
already
facts.
done.
And if you want to,
Budget right now.
he has a budget right now, and
We
he's,
can mug him right now for his budget.
you could,
If you
he's,
get it, let us know, because we haven't seen it, we'd like to.
and if you want to see a list of all the directives, the website is long and it's like this /////. But if you go into Google and you just put Strong Mayor Directive Pickering, it's the first link. Strong Mayor powers the city of Pickering. You get the nice Strong Mayor website or the whole nice explanation of what it is. And then at the bottom, there's a list for mayoral decisions and then mayoral directions. And so there's, what are these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, they're numbered. Great. So there's 9 for 2020. There's 10 for 2023, 1 for 2024. And then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 directions. So
is there a place
there's one
to put
thing.
dictator?
Sorry?
Is there a place to put dictator?
So Maurice, I'm
In your
going to
heart.
correct this issue so far.
That's what-
As the council, I don't know the issue so far, as the council, have you discussed it amongst
No.
yourselves?
We don't get.
No,
We don't get
no,
them.
we don't-
See, I
we
think
don't-
that
we
is,
don't
we're
decide.
trying to explain to you that we don't get to, we do not get to discuss it.
They're on the
We-
website, why can't you see them?
No,
Well, we do, we
So
get
that's fine.
them.
So let's exactly, my question is.
We
after-
see-
After the fact, these
Wait.
directives, the issue, you can't
Correct.
change them, so I appreciate, I understand you can't change them. Is there anything particularly that the council members are basically in opposition to, you really think was a bad decision?
All of
I'm
them.
just curious now.
We communicate it all the time, just like we're gonna
Is there anything
communicate on Bill
specific-
23.
Are you upset that today's the mayor issued a directive last week to make a temporary full-on position, or?
To be fair, to credit, if you look at the mayoral decisions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them, 9 of the 11 are decision to give written approval of bylaws passed at the X meeting of city council. So many of them are literally just to approve, but there are other, so delegation of mayor's powers pertaining to committees comprised solely from blah, the mayoral directions are the ones that are more, the ones that are the unilateral things that don't go through us.
That he has made a decision, he's handed them to us, and there is no debate, and it will not make a docket at a council meeting.
And they're typically through hiring.
You're communicating with us.
Yep.
Is there anything that you're concerned about, you think basically has really stopped on?
His
on-
right for
by that individual
dismissal,
really
yeah,
Well,
so
for
he can
example,
dismiss the CAO without consultation.
He can.
Or,
he can.
or
It's
the
not-
bylaws, under the procedure, the mayor has to agree to the procedural bylaw at the end of every meeting. So we could go through an entire meeting, and I'm not saying this would happen, we could go through an entire meeting of council, vote on stuff by council, and then you have the confirming bylaw. That confirming bylaw must be agreed to by the mayor. He can veto the procedural bylaw, which means all the actions cease to exist. So
As a
where,
trivial example,
so
I
where they
witnessed-
list, where Mara listed those bylaws, that's the procedure. He's signed off on all the bylaws.
So he's agreed with, in most cases, he's agreed with council and signed off.
Correct.
He's agreeing that the proceedings of council that were held occurred and are valid.
Exactly.
To Maurice's point, we can have an entire meeting, we can vote and have recorded votes on any number of items, and at the
Or notice
end
it's a
of the
motion.
night, he can say no and dispense with all of the approvals.
Has he done that?
No,
No,
but
So
it's,
in a worst case scenario, you get the budget on January 30th.
yeah,
It's a fait accompli. He
It
doesn't
is.
have to listen to you on February 9th.
correct.
It doesn't mean we're not gonna go through this
No,
line by
I
line
understand
as
that.
counselors.
Does he present this budget
No,
to the public?
no.
No?
We get no say, you know the 2 days we used to have where they go and talk, that's gone. That doesn't exist anymore.
But I look at us, and I'm not gonna pretend I speak for the mayor. However, the mayor has said to us, give us your priorities. He asked,
So what?
well, let me finish, Jan, please.
Okay, yep.
He asked us for our priorities. We have sent our priorities into the mayor, to the treasurer. The treasurer is supposed to take that information and present it to the mayor and say, here's what the public, might only be 40 people that did their survey results, but that's what they're gonna say. And I go back to how much flexibility does the mayor have, except for new hiring, when most of the budget is fixed on an annual basis anyway?
But what, well, for projects and things,
Projects are different, I'm talking about operating budget.
The mayor does have the power to,
Staffing
George.
position.
George, just for clarity, the mayor does have the power to override hirings,
Right?
to say, no, I don't want those 5 positions or 10 positions. Yeah, he does have that power to override.
Does he have the power to override the positions or the people who are called to fill?
both.
Both.
Both, he can direct and say, so what you'll see is, so do you have the last one
The
there?
office
I do, yes.
accountability.
Yeah, the
So-
office of
He just
So
did this.
We'll, Marge, pull up the Office of Affordability, and
Yeah.
what it is a directive, so he then issues it, if you want to read it.
Yes, so, January 9th, 2024, directions for CAO and Director of Human Resources to change the staff complement in the City Development Department in accordance with blah, 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 subsection so-and-so, Municipal Act. The mayor hereby directs the CAO and the Director of Human Resources to, One, change the non-union full-time position of senior planning housing under the Office of Affordability in the City Development Department to a temporary non-union contract position for 1 year. And two, that this change be reflected in the 2024 current budget for the mayor's approval. This direction takes effect on January 9th, 2024, and remains in effect unless and until it is revoked in writing by the mayor, original signed by line Kevin Ash Mayor.
So in answer to the
And then
question, yes, the mayor does have the power to identify the position and say, no, it's not by the individual. So that power is,
That's what I mean, you can't say, I don't want to hire.
I don't want Bob Smith.
No, you can't do
Yeah,
that.
you
No.
can't do that.
I can't, exactly, so he's not part of that, but the mayor can say, I don't want that in the budget, or I want it changed
So this particular directive was a position that council voted on
in 2023
to bring
and
in
2022.
as necessary, which has now been revoked. So the previous council meeting where council got together and decided democratically to bring in this position has now been removed. That is an example of strong mayor power overriding a previous council decision. No, the position is now a temporary position, not a city employee, and is a consultant. But it means it may never happen. It may never happen.
Temporary position is very different than a permanent in terms of benefits, in terms of if somebody's looking to, it's financial, it is, but.
It is very
So,
serious.
what we shared, you asked the question, can the mayor override? The mayor can override the hiring of how many staff or what the staff are, but he cannot override and get involved in the hiring process.
What about increases to council to himself?
Sorry,
He will control that. That's part of the budget.
same thing.
Unilateral.
Yes.
But there's nobody has job security.
No.
No.
So the other issue, a fundamental issue that I have is changing a permanent FTE to a consulting position. Only because I've acted in this role, consultants typically are paid at a higher premium because you're not providing them with benefits. They have no job security. So if it was a job that was 80 grand, it's now a 150 grand consultant. It's become a gig economy job.
It's a project-related position, and again, I worked at OPG.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of positions that were there only temporarily.
Yep.
For a peak.
And they make
And
sense.
that way you bring in the peak.
Yeah.
And you bring in that high-priced American, because
Yeah.
it's American, and off they go. But if the mayor's decided that this is only a temporary position retirement, then that change makes perfect sense.
But why has he decided, who's pulling his strings, and council is the one that, council, he voted for it too, unanimously decided on this, and now he's changed his mind? That is where the question mark.
And look at the job that it was. Office of Affordability.
That's what I was gonna say, to your point, George, I hear what you're saying, and situationally, contextually, like that could definitely be applicable in certain scenarios, but the idea of the Office of Affordability, which is something that we've discussed time and time again over the course of the last year, was that prices, the cost of living, house prices, just existing is like the, I'm 31 years old and I have potentially, maybe can finally look at renting a place somewhere because Lord knows I still cannot buy a house. My parents moved to Canada with a tiny bouncing baby in 1993, and by 1996 had bought a home as immigrants.
It's still painful.
The reason
No,
for that.
and it's sold off.
So the reason
Sold
for
off,
that
sorry.
position and the
Paid off.
rationale was, if you remember,
So-
Durham Region is now, we're now doing official plans, not the region. So the city of Pickering will be doing the official plans for the municipality, for the city of Pickering. We do the zoning. Now, bear in mind that the reason why we created that Office of Affordability was to twin the Office of Sustainability. And why did we do that? Because currently there is no gauge to determine what is affordable in the city of Pickering. How do you evaluate? So when we talk about these applications, and everybody in this room has talked about applications, one of the things that we wanted was an Office of Affordability to evaluate, is this application that the developer is putting in, is it really going to create affordability? Because now you have the province saying that a developer, if they say that it's affordable,
It's affordable.
It's affordable, but they also waive or they get reductions in development charges.
And the reason,
So-
sorry, I was gonna say, the reason for my bringing in my story, my personal story, was that so long as we don't have something that actually can facilitate or can make these decisions, so long as, you know, it's deemed affordable because somebody has decided arbitrarily that the word affordable makes it affordable, whether or not it actually is, we're gonna keep seeing situations like mine over and again.
Or how many times have we heard a developer at a statutory meeting or an information meeting, when we've asked the question, is it affordable? Oh yeah, it's affordable because it's Pickering and it's less than Toronto. That's not
Or it's
affordable.
affordable because it's tiny.
Apartment buildings on White's Road that were supposed to be affordable housing, and all of a sudden, they've been turned into luxury apartments, the ones that were built on.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's, and I was like, oh, all of a sudden I saw this luxury apartments, I was like, whoa, wait a second, they've taken 4 years to build them, and they turned them into luxury apartments, they were supposed to be affordable housing.
It also removes the obligation of attainable and affordable housing and accessible housing. We cannot leave out accessible, because if you are someone with mobility issues and looking to get into an apartment or a condo where, how many units are there? There's no longer an obligation to build these units. And they're not attainable nor affordable if you live on a fixed income or on an ODSP, or a senior. So this is why I sound a little angry about this job being migrated into something else, because it impacts multiple things across the city, and it's a lack of long-term vision.
We won't be able to fix affordability in 12 months. It's impossible.
Well, we Mr. Pickles, but and Robinson's do they go to bill as well?
I don't know, I don't want to speak, I cannot speak for and
Nope.
don't want to speak for someone else.
Agreed.
But as you
Really?
said, substance do change, and just like you.
Right, and-
I understand about the strong mayor stuff. Is it a really bad thing right now?
Yes.
I don't know the answer.
Anytime.
In principle, yes.
Oh,
On-
no,
on
in practice.
Oh, sorry, yes,
What's the council?
but like,
County council.
Yeah, why do we exist?
I mean,
yes,
speaking for the three of us up here, what we can definitely tell you is, when we took on this term, we took on a term to be part of a budget process, to be held accountable for that budget process. Well, that accountability's
Gone.
gone because we don't have any control. We don't have the budget meeting 2 days to sit down and go through. We don't have the time to go through a huge document, which used to be 2 binders. We get what you're gonna get, when you're gonna get it, and then we have a procedure to follow if you want to do amendments. So, process-wise, yes, we are not happy. And we'll be, we can boast it till the cows come home, but we don't control that. It is controlled by the province of Ontario at Queen's Park. That's who set the rules. All we have left to do now is to find ways to work within those rules, because we don't control it.
And just as a matter of housekeeping, we do have our city staff who are looking to kick us out on our rental permit here. So if we could take a couple more questions, because
You were on council for a long time. In your opinion, what do you think it would take to change everything, maybe back to the way council operates?
Probably the provincial election coming up in the spring of 2026. It will take a change either in the philosophy of the current government or a change of government to reverse. And
It's going to be a change in the mindset of the general population we recognize as we make improvement.
the directive
Well, I hope
comes
people
from Queen's
don't-
Park, only they can correct it. We
And I
can't.
there should not be any collective amnesia when you go to the polls in 2026. Let's remember what has been imposed by our current government.
The same should apply to Mayor Keegan's back next time. We should not apply to Misha Wilson.
Remember this moment.
But you know what?
Watch Oliver's recording later.
Here's what the sad part is. long as that bill is in place, you can elect 20 new mayors. And there's no guarantee that on their first day that they're going to do, there really isn't. All the ones in municipalities.
But in the future, at our next election municipally, if that provincial act is still in place, whoever the next incoming mayor is, whether it's Mayor Ash or Mayor Jane Smith, that will still apply and strong mayor powers will be enforced. I was gonna say Maurice Brenner, but it won't change anything. Until the province repeals that directive, that legislation, this is now how the province operates.
Could a new mayor reject the?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Every new mayor gets to decide.
That would be something I would be looking for somebody who's running for mayor.
Correct.
But even having said that, you can just
Then you would use the strong mayor power in your video.
Mary Georgia Clean, he's going back, he's still showing the whole procedure we did it from the start, right?
No, he could have just rejected the strong
I
mayor
don't know how
power.
he's that, like, he can basically go back to.
Olivia Chow was
Once
rejected
you've
that.
implemented it, you can't reject it.
Until election. But he could reject it.
He
So
could
here's-
have.
Here's an example to your question. So, former Mayor Tory in Toronto took on the strong mayor powers. When he stepped down and Mayor Chow was elected, she chose not to use those strong mayor powers. So that is an example of a mayor who had them, vacated his seat. In his case, it was by choice, but it could be by choice or by force. And then the new mayor that came in chose not to use them. At any point between now and 2026, she could choose to take them on, but that at this point, from what she's said, from how she's behaved so far, she is not using them.
So in Toronto, do you believe that they followed the same procedures had for the last 40 years? Sure, I don't think they did. I'm sure they did. Where's the legislative debate? They step debate week after week in the council chamber. That doesn't happen. She presented her budget. So even though she says, I'm not gonna base overrule the council brings up, they object and they decide that they want another amendments. If our mayor accepts those, is that not still democracy?
No, because because the public hasn't had the input.
Well, she is, the public never gets directly.
She's having town halls now.
We go next 3 weeks. We go something like, the councils decide what motions get made. We don't decide.
Well, actually,
No.
in the old process, the public had the ability to appear at the budget committee meeting. And maybe we didn't have a lot of residents, it's true, but the option was
But it
still
was public.
there.
But it was public, yeah.
And some residents
Yeah.
did come, and they did address the council.
And let's get to Craig's question as well, just before we have to
Actually,
close.
Maurice has just hit on an important point.
Okay?
About 4 years ago, some members of the public, including myself, took advantage of the opportunity to attend here at the budget committee. We were trying to get a launch ramp for the canoe club before the flood. I guess this goes back for a few more years before the flooding. And we made a presentation, and the committee of the council heard the presentation, and with Maurice and another councillor brought it forward as an amendment, and it took place. That is democracy in action. With respect to strong mayor powers, it is possible to change this, but it is entirely in Mayor Arthur.
Back away. Yeah.
It's entirely in Mayor Ash's hands. If he filed the document on February the 2nd, then we would follow it. And then a procedure could be put in place with working with his council to follow the procedure in the previous year. I'll just throw that out for consideration as my last comment. I'll name everybody correctly. I'd like to thank Richard for coming out and making this excellent presentation. And I'd
Thank you,
also
Richard.
like to thank all of the work that Stan and his department have been putting together, and Marissa and all the other staff members to prepare the budget, because I know from being involved with several public companies that that's a tremendous amount of work.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I thank Oliver for coming to do the video for tonight, too.
And please,
And
everybody,
Sam?
take a
Sam?
look at the agenda for Thursday's meeting. It's extremely important. Stan has brought a very important issue to council's attention with respect to debt levels.
Get your tickets now,
encourage you,
come
if you're
early,
available in
bring
the afternoon,
snacks.
to read it and come out and hear the presentation. I'd be very interested in seeing what the written policy is of the city with respect to debt now. I'd also be very interested in seeing what the written policy is on casino revenue and how it's to be handled.
Will you be delegating, sir?
I've got some material that I'm going to be preparing on petty.
Just say yes.
Okay.
By the way, you should thank yourselves as well for coming out. This is a very large city of like 100K people, and we had 22 tonight. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate the number of faces who are regulars who continue to come. This dialogue is important.
Yes.
Even if it doesn't feel like we're changing something, it's still important to have these discussions. And it's important that we continue to facilitate this and that you know you have access to us as well.
And
And
for
it's
Ward
important
One,
to know.
for Ward One, February the 12th is the next town hall, and that will be at the George Ash Community Center. We are co-hosting it with the Rougemount North Community and Recreation Association.
Did we get that right, Peggy?
And we've already now, in discussion with Peggy, come up with the topic. And the topic for that, we'll be having, I'm just waiting for confirmation. It's somebody from Richards there, I think Arnold. We're just waiting for confirmation. And the purpose would be to engage the public from that community as part of the park design, which is the old park, which is slated to have some improvements. So it's part of the engagement process. So that's on the February 12th. I don't think we haven't booked anything on March yet.
Not
We're
yet.
still looking at March, we're looking at April. I think I saw something come through from Paul White on an idea for, and I can't remember what it was just the other day. It was tied to something you submitted, Craig. And Paul was talking about a meeting.
Anyway, thank you all for coming. Appreciate your time. It's you. It's you. Just